me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day.
Oh, come on.
It's still continuing. Are you afraid? Are you afraid of not knowing what to say? Well, we will never run out of things to say.
Never.
Ever.
Okay, why is there an echo?
We kill each other sentences too.
Two of me here today.
We kill each other sentences too.
There's two of me.
There is an echo.
Does somebody have another tab open?
There's an echo.
Dr. K, do you have the video on?
No, I just closed it actually
Oh,
a minute
good.
ago.
I don't know. It's
I
gone
am
now.
double checking all my tabs. No, I don't have a second one. open.
Imperfect action is the attraction. Is that it?
I think.
Hello.
No.
Good. It's gone.
I don't hear it anymore. It's all good.
It is gone?
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how. That was interesting because
Good thing.
it played. And now I hear myself twice.
I only hear you once.
Well, I'm gonna switch to headphones.
Hang on. Maybe Facebook is playing not nice. Oh, you know what it is? I gave you the YouTube link, and
Yeah.
that was my mistake because it was still open on YouTube.
Ah,
That was
Ah, that's the last time I give Kayvon anything.
so that John's diagnosis, as in a YouTube tab being open, was correct, but in the wrong place.
I've done this a long time, Dr. K.
He sees.
Anyway, so look,
behind
we
the
have
curtain.
we have plenty to say today.
Plenty
In
to-
particular, talk about the mistakes that you make and the imperfect action you take.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a great
So
topic.
I will
Okay.
tell you that's one of the biggest fears that John and I have talked about all the time is like, what are you going to do? What happens if you're going live or you're creating videos and you run out of things to say? Well, there are plenty of things to say every single day. Something happens to you or you
it's
think about
another
it.
version of imposter syndrome fear, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anyway, do introductions. I'm Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of, numerous places and Epicoin Agency, which is the joint agency that this guy, John Paduchak, and I
Right.
have
That's me.
together. And down below, the guy you know from
That guy right there.
Simplify.zone, we are never alone because
Yes.
Zoom himself, Dr. Kayvon Kay.
I'm going to poke him in the depth. Oh, hey, thanks. I'm going to poke his eye by
Real
that.
microphone.
That's
Where are our name tags?
You know, that's the same thing. I don't know what happened to them. I could try and fix it here right now, but as you
No.
know,
Let's
it's like
not
going
do
to
it.
crisp. Like it'll just blow the whole thing to pieces. So
exactly.
the good news is our names are in the description of this video wherever
Yes.
you're currently consuming it. So
That's
Yeah.
right. Come find us. Or leave
You'll
a comment
find us
if you
on
wanna get in
social.
touch. We'll
yeah, we're
find
very
it.
social. Keep in touch. Bye now.
And let me
Oh, we're
know-
not done yet. Okay.
And let me know if you want to bring up some sort of a comment or anything else, so I know I should
Yeah,
get over the wall.
hang on the top of it.
Hanging
Exactly.
comments. Well, yeah, because I'm stuck in the video section right now.
That's all
Yeah,
right.
even if you're trying new tools, you always have new tools with fools. You always have something to talk about
That's for sure.
because
with
stuff
new tools,
breaks. Yeah.
you're always going to have challenges, and we certainly have had fun changing our way of doing these videos, switching from StreamYard to Melon to a couple
Yeah.
of different things. So
We are in the front line taking the bullets so other people don't have to.
exactly.
Too many war references these days. Actually, I don't think I need this. Do I? Need
Well, I
this?
say that because I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys I shared it with you. So last night was our second comedy show.
Oh, you
I
really
had
took
a,
the bullet.
I had a 5-minute
Taking
course.
bullets.
So
Wait.
I learned
Okay, there you go.
I learned something about the jargon of stand-up comedy. You have the lineup of the comedians, and the
Yeah.
first one is also called the bullet, because that's the person who goes out there and takes the bullet for everybody else.
The crowd.
So the
Nice.
first one. So I was the fourth person, not the bullet, but I guess
Not the
at
bullet.
some point I'm gonna end up being the bullet too. So that's what
Did
I
you
had.
did you have your conscious Kevlar on? Nevertheless,
What?
just in case, your conscious Kevlar, your bulletproof vest that you would come.
Ah,
with.
conscious girl.
Police.
No, well,
No.
when you're on stage and you have microphone in your hand, everything goes out the window.
There's like,
Everything's done after that.
so you have plenty of things to say, Dr. Kayvon Kay, since you are up on stage these
Yeah.
days. Do you ever run out of things to say?
No, well, actually, you have. It's a funny thing to say. We never can run out of things to say. It's just a matter of making sure what we say is relevant, important, and that sort of thing. And sometimes it's just a matter of talking it out. Like we were talking about jokes.
Yeah.
One of my jokes, my opener last night was, "Hi, everybody calls me Kay because I am lazy." So my theme of the set was being lazy. So my full name is Kayvon Kay, but you don't want to go all of that. I just say Kay.
I can't even say that.
Which
Okay.
makes my job weird, being a productivity coach. So see the contrast. So right there was something to take out of that. So when it comes to this kind of conversation, or creating content, blog posts, video posts, or anything else, first of all, we can just sit down in one day, come up with 100 titles easy.
Yeah.
Number two is the content that any of us makes, I don't know, 6 months ago, 1 year ago, even if we don't have an update to that, just reposting that is valuable to so many people, because it's going to be new to some people and a great reminder to others. The other thing is the same topic after 6 months or 1 year. Now you have some updates to it, or amendments and that sort of thing. So, or new iterations, or something wasn't relevant, it's relevant now, or was relevant, not anymore. So I don't think we ever run out of content. It's just a matter of paying attention to content, as in, what am I going to say? Is this going to be helpful? Let's create, I don't know, a series of talks about something and that sort of thing. So that's how I see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because, when I look at most stand-up comedians, they just talk about their life experience. That's their content, right? Somebody's fat and lazy, and so they talk about that. Or
why did you add fat?
I don't know.
Oh.
but no, I mean, there's a wide variety of things that come up. If you're a school teacher and you're a stand-up comedian, you can talk about stuff that happens in school. Or if you're an engineer, right? Stuff that happens during the course of your job and the people around you and all of that. And I think that with the stuff that we do, it's very much the same way. We talk about the stuff that we do. We talk about the common questions that our clients and customers ask of us. There's never a shortage of content. And of course, people are always asking us questions. What are the common questions that people ask us?
Yeah.
You should never run out of stuff to say, but it's the most common fear that everyone has, or one of the most common fears.
I think part of the fear surrounding running out of things to say is the fear of not filtering what you really are thinking. And that somehow, if you express what you truly believe and think, etc., that you will drive people away. So I think it's overcoming inhibition of sharing things that is the fear of running out of things to say, because you always have something to talk about.
That's a very good point, and actually one of the most valuable things that we can offer if we frame it right. Because I get asked a lot of questions, but if I have an opinion or an answer, I'll just give them that. But if I don't know, I declared at the beginning, like, I never thought about that, or if I knew the answer, it would have been something like, then I'll start talking. So they know this is off the cuff, not my final opinion. We are trying to figure this out together as we go. So that has its own value if that declaration and framing is at the beginning, so people know, don't take this for advice. This is the figuring out method. So, because at the end of the day, nobody knows everything, right?
No. Yeah. And the other thing that's quite common, and I tend to be one of these people, even though I do this for a living, I tend to be one of these people who overthinks things. And yet other people will say to me, why aren't you doing videos on this? It's really interesting. I don't know who that would be.
Other people.
Other people. to tell me, hey, why didn't you do some videos on this? It's really interesting, and I think people would dig it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, just like the little chicks came in, he got new chickens because the other ones had all been killed off, was it? Or
Last year we had like a little issue with a weasel
from the nest.
So he got new little chick, and I kept wanting him to do chick flicks because I think it's just so fascinating to just have the chronology of the chickens growing up from little yellow fuzzballs into egg layers, and I just think that's a fascinating thing for people. Think of all the times that there are cameras, like there were cameras at the Washington D.C. at the National Zoo when they had the new pandas were born, and people would just be tracking every day. They tune into the panda cam just to see what the pandas were doing and how the little ones were doing, or little one.
Yeah, it gives you a good sense of time and value. Yeah. Like this time I went to a restaurant, I asked for a chicken sandwich. They didn't hear me right. They thought I want eggs. So they said, how do you want your eggs? I thought, well, incubated,
hatched, and grown up.
Incubated and brought the full size.
It's going to take a long time. Just give me scrambled.
They were scrambling to fulfill your order.
Yes. That's hysterical. I like them incubated and brought to full term.
Incubated, hatched, and fully grown. Thank you.
Yes, killed,
and also cooked. And cooked. Be sure to do the cook part. Well, one of the things I realize more and more, we're talking to little lights, like a little camera light, whether it's a red light, green light, whatever. Oh no, that sounds more like that horrible Korean thing. Anyway, it's one of those things where it's just mastering the art of conversation. So if you're at a party and you're talking to people, maybe you know nothing about the topic, but it could be something like, well, tell me more about that, or when did you first start doing this, or whatever it is. And I think people forget that. We kind of throw it out all the window as soon as the lights go on and the camera light goes on, people freeze. And I think that's the part. It's the pure terror, the fear of what you're going to say. So the camera confidence goes out the window. It's not even present. The fear of not knowing what to say comes up. The fear of rejection, imperfection, ridicule, all these things just go sky high. And then we just stress out without being able to share whatever we have that's of
most of them, they
value.
just live in our head.
To who to what?
Most of those fears, they just live in our head.
Yeah,
Other people don't even notice those things.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing too. So when you start putting content out there, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's got to be perfect, it's got to be that. No, because at the beginning, nobody's watching you. That's the freedom to experiment.
Right. And I like that you brought that up, because so many times if we're having a conversation with somebody, it's easy for us to ask them questions, and it's easy for us to answer questions. And so at the very least, that's something that we can do immediately is, if we've got somebody else on with us, we can ask them questions.
And here's a good example. So John and I are starting up a podcast. It's called RV Goodness.
And it's something you don't know anything about.
I know nothing about
experience of telling you about it.
Yeah. I mean, I know things about, he's got a holiday Rambler, RV, they're expensive as far as repairs go.
I spend a lot of time fixing it.
You can spend $300 on a single fill up in a holiday Rambler. I know some basic little things, and going to campgrounds and other things, and how some people want to, reduce, or should I say increase their revenue. So we call it more gassive income, but we're just having a conversation going back and forth. We've got 8 episodes that we're going to release. I'm still editing a little bit, but I mean, that's just a conversation, and having conversations with people are very much voyeurs, and they want to just hear what's going on in your life with private things. That's why behind the scenes stuff, you'll never run out of behind the scenes things for stories and things like that.
No, it's true. In fact, I got a little sticker shock today. I just filled up my wife's car and it cost me $63.
That's not bad at all.
No, but
you're not here where it's
75-gallon tank.
You're not here where it's $6.59 a gallon. So anyways,
I know that's a very good point. I have been even had like memberships or seen emails that they are regular emails, and they're just titled like just that, behind the scenes in our company.
Yeah, exactly.
They tell you what's going on and what they're working on and what worked and what didn't work and that sort of thing.
Well, there's like Alex Jeffries right now. He lost everything recently, and he sent out a couple of emails to those of us who follow him regularly. And he divorced, lost the car, lost his dream house, dream car, and now he's living in Wales and starting all over again. So he's documenting his journey from loss to gaining gradually. And that's a fascinating thing. So to go from losing everything to starting over again, and people are definitely tuning in. There's a lot of big time digital marketers and coaches who are tuning in because they know him. He's got a lot of fame within the internet marketing community.
It's fascinating too, because I know somebody else, same same group, same thing, starting all over from scratch because of
Yeah. And but people like that too, because there's the negative part of the subconscious, and maybe people love to be, they're fascinated by danger. It's like that's why there's always rubbernecking on the highway at accidents and all. But I think some people have a secret fascination or desire to see something go wrong, like they go to NASCAR to races to anticipating a crash.
Yes.
And so for some people, they like to see those who are very successful fall. But then I don't know if they feel guilt or not, but then they like to see them level up again over time.
Or I could tell that's great doing.
It's like anger. Anger is an energy.
Yeah.
So we can channel it to where we want to go. Like, I know there have been TV shows, I'm not going to mention the name, that the only reason that I watched it because it made me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Sure.
At least I'm not as bad as that.
Yes, exactly. But at the same time, that has happened many times in life on a serious note. Like, I may be feeling bad or down or self-pity or about something, then I see somebody else in another situation, either a real person in the street, or you hear about someone and you realize you have the sense of comparison. Right?
But that's the positive use of comparison, because the negative one is like, I'm not as good as so and so.
Right.
And that can depress you.
Yeah.
Yes, it can. So that's the skill of keep channeling the negative energies and turning them around. Because, the same way that we are talented in turning positive things into negative, we are also talented turning negative things into positive. So we are change agents. We just choose the direction.
It's a little harder for most, I think, the average person to develop that silver lining mindset, though, to interpret, especially when the disaster or the negative is happening in the moment.
Yes.
It takes a lot of practice to make that conversion or make that leap into, at the very least, tomorrow will be a better day.
Yeah, or in the next moment, I can look at it this way or that way. Yeah, it is a skill. We train it, we practice it. Many times like anything else that we practice, we fall off the bicycle a bunch of times. But we'll get back on it. Eventually, you can go for a long run without falling.
I like that you brought this up, Dr. V, because so many times we hear people say, gosh, nobody'd be interested in what's going on in my life or whatever it might be. But yet at the same time, you'd be surprised. And at the end of the day, it brings the people closer to you who already resonate with you. Now they're resonating with you on a different level. Let
me give you a relatively insignificant event. So last week, I always like to watch Saturday Night Live, at 8:30. It's actually live in the Pacific, 8:30, 11:30 at night on the East Coast. So I'm watching it. I fell asleep on the couch, and then I woke up and it's like, oh my gosh, it's almost over. And so I have to rewind it and watch what I missed. I made a short video about that, put it into TikTok stories, and then made it into and reshot it as a regular TikTok video. 700 views, likes, all kinds of stuff. And I was only telling people something from my personal life, that I was watching one of my favorite shows, fell asleep, and now I've got to rewind and watch it again. Seemingly insignificant, but I just thought it was just, hey, this is like a day in the life. This is me at the end of the day, exhausted and unable to keep my eyes open. I mean, it did make some reference to snoring, that I woke myself up snoring. But that, that
people can connect with.
Because, and I'm paraphrasing what Rich Sheffrin had said once, which is, my take on it is that which is most personal is most universal in terms of developing resonance.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a great place to test things. You would think it would be kind of a crazy place, but TikTok, Instagram, you really get an idea of what kinds of things people want to hear about just by sharing those little stories.
Yeah, I mean, it can be that throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. But if you
conscious about it,
I mean, if you analyze it, see what the hashtags were, what the topic was, how many scene changes you had, et cetera, you can experiment with just about anything at the beginning in terms of content creation, and really not have to worry about it.
Yeah. And what makes valuable content is the transition from the day-to-day or normal or taken for granted to something insightful. That's where the experts come from.
Right.
An example. Here's the thing. My brand that I help with the profitability with clients, Profit Finder.
Yes.
So people, when I talk to them about, okay, we're going to look at your financial statements, income statement, this, that. So they say, so this is the same thing that my accountant is doing for me. And what's the difference? Like, does this mean that I don't need my accountant anymore? So
Of course not.
that's something that they know on a day-to-day basis. So pointing what's the difference, what are we working on, is insightful and makes them helpful. So I like to say it this way. You run your business, you have some activities. An accountant takes all of that and translate them into numbers.
Right.
What we do is we take some numbers that we want to see in future, and we do the opposite. We turn numbers into activities.
Right.
So
Strategies and tactics. Yeah.
Yes. One is called accounting. The other one is called business growth coaching, right?
Mhm.
We both work with the same tools, but from two different directions. One looks at the activities and the history of them. What do they mean as far as numbers? We look at those numbers, get a picture of now, where do we want the numbers to be? And so what are going to be the activities? So turning numbers to activities is the other way around. So
That's a good
a day-to-day thing now makes sense to people.
That's a very, very good point. It's funny how many different arenas, you may be looking at numbers, whatever it might be, but looking at it in two totally different ways with two different, completely different end goals in mind. But it's still a metric that we use to go through and use to figure things out.
And by the way, so we have just had a conversation back and forth, unscripted, and have been creating content by having conversation.
There you go.
And we do this all the time.
Yeah. It's not like, we're shooting the breeze, but I mean, we have general idea of what we want to talk about. And then we pivot into different aspects of it. And somebody says something else, somebody reacts. We have another insight. It triggers another thought in someone else. Yeah. And before you know it, you have this cascade of, neuronal activity that produces speech and content that you can consume.
Yeah. Although it is on a theme.
When did I join this live stream with you guys on a weekly basis?
A few moments ago.
No.
Oh,
was it a year ago?
Close to a year ago, because we had several other people. We had Troy and Cam and other people.
3/4 of a year ago.
3/4 maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll go back. I can check.
But regardless, what I'm trying to say, we have been doing this weekly. So we have done this, I don't know, at least 50 times.
At least 500,000 times.
We maybe try to come up with a prepared topic once, and it was just bullet points. The rest of the time, we only had a title, and we never run out of things to say.
Never run out of things to say with a title and no bullet points. I mean, I've had slides that I've put up before just to try to keep us focused, but even that didn't work. So,
and you know what's funny? If you got us together in a room today, we've any of us have ever met each other, but we get along like we were best friends since high school.
We're drinking buddies from college. Yeah. So.
which is kind of funny because a lot of that's another thing that is I've always found fascinating, the fact that people can meet virtually and literally develop the same kind of relationship as if they met in person for the most part.
Well, metaverse is going to take care of that.
Yeah.
You'll never have to leave home again.
Pretty soon we'll never have to leave home or interact with a human being again.
Yeah, we're getting closer and closer to people in the WALL-E, the cartoon in the future. Everybody's on that thing.
Right?
Oh,
WALL-E.
WALL-E.
Yes.
That's Jar Jar Binks.
Well, they're all very similar. It's interesting. They always talk about names, sounds of people's voices. I've come to the conclusion that the HAL 9000 from 2001 is remarkably similar to Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. So the voices are remarkably similar.
Yeah,
similar.
There was this Instagram meme I guess I saw that a couple were getting a divorce and it was not a friendly one. So one of them made an ad with the other person's phone number, and the ad was a big prize of a competition of doing the Chewbacca sound. So the other person kept getting phone calls, and people on the other win the money. So this is annoying. I thought that's a good revenge.
Wow. That's
Yep.
something. Okay, yeah, you can talk about divorce if you want to, and you'll never run out of things to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but you know, the day-to-day stuff, if you have a theme or a message, let's say that you're a health coach, for example,
Mhm.
and you just go around, you know, even looking at the windows or the ads, you know, for restaurants, you always say you can do basically content curation, even from things that are, you know, that you see blog posts online saying, well, I totally disagree with this person, they have no idea what they're saying. But you can pivot all the time too. Like you have an ice cream cone. Yeah, this is my cheat day. And why do I do a cheat day? Because I'm so incredibly good from Monday through Saturday that Sunday is my little ice cream. And but you can pivot all the time. You can talk about healthcare issues and go back to food. You can go to emotional mastery, emotional intelligence, and go back to food. Why do people overeat, and stress
Mhm.
management, and all these things? You can talk about all these things and just bring them right back to your area of expertise or your theme, in that instance, of health coach.
Actually, just before this call, there was a perfect example of that. So I was talking to someone
Mhm.
that he is a master marketer and helps with lead generation and that sort of thing. And I do what I do. I'll do the coaching side and that sort of thing. And we are both, the way that we met is we are both part of this health mastermind
Mhm.
that we're on, and we were basically checking in with each other because we are accountability buddies in the group.
Right.
So how was your week? Were you able to stay with the program, get off it, get on it? And we were talking about this whole idea of, we have, this is a 60-day program, so we're in the middle of it, and you have certain level of success or implementation or not. So there are two approach. You can, in the middle of something, say, you know what, so far not good, I'm gonna give up on the rest of it. Or you say, I'm gonna salvage what's left, right? And get, at least the other half can be, you know something, as opposed to
Sure.
nothing. So that change of mindset, even though it's on the topic of health and that sort of thing, but his expertise coming, my expertise coming, and we have a meaningful conversation on a topic that is not one of our expertise. So that whole
Mhm.
cheat day kind of a thing can open up into the mindset behind being healthy and that sort of thing. So there
Yeah.
are so many branches that can be helpful to our audience.
Yeah, and you can pivot all the time. I mean, it's interesting when you're talking about this. I just had a thought and it passed me and it disappeared. Gosh darn it! I hate it when that happens.
Me too.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah,
Oh, on the
I am
topic of,
definitely.
oh, you're at the halfway point. So you're at the halfway point in a 60-day challenge. It's not unlike, I'm going back to NFL football, the Buffalo Bills. We now talk about the Patriots,
Yeah.
and at the halfway point they have halftime, and the coach comes into the locker room and tells them what changes they need to make, how they're going to do better, and they go out after halftime, and a lot of times they'll come back in the second half and win the game.
Yeah.
So don't ignore the possibility of halftime and getting coached again to make it through
Yeah.
the rest.
And the more of those quote unquote half times we have, the better. You were talking about things being measured. So in all of our businesses, like John helping someone with video and measuring their
Sure.
progress, or with the interaction of live videos, or looking at your financial statements. If you
Mhm.
do these things too far apart, I'm going to use a business as example, right? Any of the numbers of the business, any of the KPIs. If you look at it once a year, basically you have one chance to course correct. If you do it quarterly, now you have four chances to course correct. If you do it every month, 12 chances to make
Sure.
improvements. If you do it weekly, 52 chances, which is much better than anything else less than that.
And if you do it daily, you need therapy.
Yep, there you go. Yes, there
Right.
is actually, that's a very good point. There is such a thing as doing it too much,
Yeah.
overdoing
Yeah.
it,
Diminishing
overthinking.
returns. So
Yes, diminishing return, overthinking, and all of that. So yeah, looking at the number of views weekly, fine. Daily, maybe not. If it's a 7
hourly,
video, yeah.
obsessive.
All Yeah.
Which is why,
Refresh.
right.
Fresh.
Which is why we love the book Atomic Habits. Just little incremental changes.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Baby steps. And what about Bob?
Mm.
What about Bob?
It's a movie.
I remember.
You'll need to see it, Kayvon.
What is the movie called? What about Bob?
What about Bob? What about Bob? Chevy.
I don't know if I want to see it.
Oh, yes, you do. Yes,
Oh, yeah,
you do. Yes, you do.
You definitely
Baby
do.
steps, Dr. Kayvon. baby
Yes.
steps.
Okay, I'll trust you.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. It's just one of my
Where
favorites.
do I find it?
Probably Netflix or Prime or
Ask
whatever it is.
Alexa.
Ask
Is it
Alexa.
an old one?
No, don't ask Alexa right now.
Not right
Yeah,
now.
it's an
An
older
old
movie.
one?
Oh yeah, it's probably
Somewhere.
20 years old or more. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but she'll
I'm
find it
Googling
for
it.
you.
It's a psychiatrist and one of his patients who the patient wants to become his best friend. So
Yeah, it's a dark
well
movie.
worth the watch.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a Bill Murray movie.
It's a what?
Bill Murray movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very much worth.
we, well,
Okay,
we
that
passed
is the game.
long ago.
Yeah, this one
Exactly.
you have to see this one. You'll understand a lot of references after that.
Suddenly,
Anyhow,
so many things make sense.
See, we can talk about movies. You'll never run out of things to say.
never, ever.
I mean, I think a lot of it is the attitude of, you've going to a party. That's what I think of mostly with social media. If you go to a party, you're going to have a lot of different conversations with different people, unless you're hiding in the corner eating hors d'oeuvres and don't want to talk to anybody. And in that case, that's more of a mindset issue, trying to release yourself from your inhibitions and the fear that people are dangerous. So,
Right. It's also about segues.
Yeah.
Because so many times you'll be going along, we might be talking about something completely different, but then you have the opportunity to bring it into something that you want to transition to.
Speaking of segues, let me
Yeah.
so speaking of is a great way to transition the conversation or add something to the conversation. You say speaking of, or
And by the way,
speaking of,
by the way,
and
just
along the
remind me
lines of that,
yeah, right.
that's total BS. That's another good one.
Well, you'll definitely get some reaction from that.
If you want to be unignorable, that's the one.
Especially if somebody's asking you what you just had for dinner or something completely, totally irrelevant.
it's funny. That was my mom's favorite question all the time. What did you eat? What did they serve? What did you eat?
Oh,
And
yeah.
my answer is 8:30 p.m.
How's the weather? How's the weather where you are?
Well, my dad used to, so nurses, when my dad was in assisted living, that as well as prior to that was in a nursing home, but then he got a lot better. My mom disappeared from the planet, but he got better. And they'd come in and ask them, they'd say, "How do you feel?" And my dad would always reply, "With my fingers." So, there you go. Hey, you can face palm and head palm that all you want, but he's been out of here since 2016. So, but his legacy lives on.
My dad had a bunch of those jokes too, and they were like this. When we were kids, they were funny. Then they were not. Then they were annoying. Then they were, what is it? What's the word for something that makes you angry?
Irritating.
Yeah. Then he kept with it until they become funny again.
Exactly. It's just a matter of time.
Cycle like 3 times with the same.
It is a matter of time. So I think the main part about running out of things to say, or the fear of not knowing what to say, it really revolves around us getting a better understanding of who we are, what our personality is like, and what we're willing to express. And I think that so many of us live in fear. Some of us, we've been told by others that, oh, you're too much. You're over the top. You need to calm down. You need to, reel it on in. And when you get that message over and over and over again, it tends to cause you to sort of, it's limiting. It pushes you down, and you're afraid to express yourself. And I think the liberating part of creating content that is more personal is, who knows you better than you, and who nobody else can be you for that matter. So
and there are techniques, like the segue technique that we were talking about. One is like improv, yes, and so not saying but to things, either the things that you say or in the conversation, and so on, and you added to the conversation. Another one is, especially when it gets sensitive or heated, it's always to say 2 things that you agree before the third thing that is going in a different direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's subconsciously and subconsciously for yourself and everybody else reminds everyone that we have more in common than the things that we disagree with. So
most definitely,
and it keeps it on the conversation on a progressive kind of a way, become more and more to the ideal of what is right rather than who is right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing that I remind myself, I worked in a doctor's office. I did 1 day a week to help him out for quite a few years. And he, underneath his X-ray view box was a tiny card. And the card was written, "Would I rather be right or happy?"
Hmm.
And so sometimes our desire, and I'm very guilty of this, to be right, to tell the truth, and this is the way things are. Don't believe all those conspiracies, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It gets in the way. I had a conversation just last week with someone who she was very anti-vax, and for most of my life, I've never had a vaccine at all. And she had tons of vaccines all of her life, but refused to do anything with the COVID stuff because of this and that and everything else. And so we started down that road and then deviated. And I would always do what you're talking about, which is bring her saying, "Oh, well, we're talking about this and this and this and this, and here are the points where we actually agree." And we wound up having a conversation for 90 minutes. And I thought it was going to be 5.
Hmm.
So there
We have a lot more in common. with
yeah,
everyone.
because we revealed the commonality in our parents and our siblings, those who we were estranged from, and all kinds of other things, like a couple family members with mental illness. And so we talked about, and we found out we had almost parallel lives, but in one particular issue we diverged.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I think
Yeah,
that's
with those issues. Sometimes I think I'm the only one in our family that suffers from it, because the other ones, they seem to be enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
What
quite.
happened to the baseball?
I didn't do a face palm.
Okay,
Could I?
moving on.
Well, because it would take my lid off. So I'm very there.
you
That's
go.
John's got the shoulder. I mean, I could do this, but then
Yes.
that kind of spoils the view. For
Maybe
me,
we
'cause
can
I
come
can't
up with
see it.
another hand gesture.
Oh well, there's always restless middle finger syndrome.
Yeah.
Only you can prevent RMFS.
It always is.
Well, for different people of the world. And there's this, which means something different. And
This
for
is
all
very
you Russian,
passive aggressive.
for all you Russian folks out there, I'm giving you this.
We've
Oh.
insulted half the world now.
I know. I think we've successfully offended many cultures across the
Millions.
millions of people.
Not
If
on
only
purpose.
there were that many viewing, but that's okay. We'll just keep cranking out good content. And that is
Yes.
good content. So we've done 38 minutes or so. Do you
Awesome.
want to continue, or I think it's about a good time to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think
Thank
it's good. So I guess if there is one thing to take away from this conversation, is fear of running out of content or things to say is just a false fear. It
It's in your
doesn't
head.
exist, and we all have a lot more to contribute than we think we do.
Right.
Yeah,
The
I
one
think it's
thing
more
that-
sorry, John.
Oh, go ahead. I'll let you
I was
go.
going to say it's more about a question of the fear of expressing your ideas is probably more dominant than the fear of really running out of things to say. Like with the thing of running out of things to say, there's something beneath the surface. There's more to it than just
There's
that.
more to it. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. There's definitely more to it than just that. I think I can't remember which one of you said this earlier, but I think it's very true that sometimes some other thing gets in the way. It's our camera confidence. It's our confidence in general. It's some other piece that gets in the way of us thinking that the content we create or the subject matter we're talking about isn't valuable to other people. And it's the 6 inches right here that keeps us from doing it.
I think my head's a little bigger. They always have to find
All
extra
right,
large,
maybe.
extra large
Maybe
hats. 6.5, 7.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I got a big melon too, so yeah.
A big melon. That's why we use melon here for
There you go.
the Do It
We
Now
all have
show.
big melons.
We all have big melons. That's the one commonality. We all have big melons.
All three of us.
All right. So I guess that wraps it up for today. Hopefully you got some ideas, not necessarily inspiration, but at least we got you thinking, turning those wheels and getting you to the point where you can embrace the idea that you'll never run out of things to say because you're an interesting person and everybody wants to hear from you. It's just a question of pressing the damn button. So,
And just be fearless.
no, fearless is stupid. It gets you in a tiger cage to get eaten. I say be courageous. Feel the fear, do it anyway. So
Nice.
because I just don't want to get eaten, All right.
Yeah.
So
All right.
we will be here. If you have any other topics, if you have any comments or other things, if you're seeing this on the replay, please use the hashtag replay underneath right here, because wherever you are, there's a place to comment. Thank you so much,
Yes.
gentlemen. And I'll work on getting your names up here next week. I still don't know why it didn't
okay.
happen, but hey, Melon people, if you're out there, I still want to find out why it took me 3 times to post this live stream. All right. We'll be back. Same bat time, same bat channel, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern for the Do It Now show. Hopefully, we've given you some ideas and some inspiration to get off your butts and do it now. Ciao.